This one's going to be a big contender at the Oscars this year. It just won the BAFTA Award, the British Academy Award, for Best Picture of the Year among 14 nominations. It's got 9 nominations at the Oscars. Let's talk about its chances and the movie on the whole. All Quiet on the Western Front. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for the Netflix film All Quiet on the Western Front. This is up for 9 Academy Award nominations, including some of the real biggies. International feature, I think it's a lock for that one, but it's up for adapted screenplay as well. Best Picture of the Year, yes, that is one of them. And I think of the 10 nominees, it's got a fairly decent chance at taking that trophy home. So before we launch into the specifics of this movie and my review of it, I want to welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We are knocking out these Oscar movies right and left here, and I think there's only 3 more in the major categories for me to review. The Fabelmans, After Sun, and Triangle of Sadness. So I'll get to those within the coming week or so. And also, my buddy Tim is going to join me in doing a will they win, should they win at the Oscars, and who got snubbed, all of that fun stuff that we do every year. But let's talk about this specific movie, All Quiet on the Western Front. It is directed by Edward Berger, and because it is in German, it is nominated in Best International Feature. And I believe, as a result, it's the first German film to be nominated for Best Picture. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's true. So this tells the gripping story of a young soldier from Germany in World War I. His name is Paul, and him and his buddies experience firsthand the war is hell ethos, and they fight for their lives in the trenches. They fight each other. They fight the enemy, etc. And this is based on a book from 1929, which was turned into the 1930 film of the same name, which did win Best Picture. It won Best Director as well for that 1930 version. And it is probably the best war movie I've ever seen. Look, I'm not a war movie aficionado. In fact, I held off so long on watching this because I heard it was very, very visceral, very in your face with the blood and the bloodshed and the sheer violence of war. But I figured it was going to be nominated for a bunch of things, so I'm like, all right, eventually I'm going to have to sit down and watch this thing. And the original, though, to me, is probably the best war movie ever made. I know Saving Private Ryan's got to be up there on a lot of people's lists as well. For me, now listen, I saw the original almost 10 years ago. I don't quite remember everything about it, but to me, this captured the spirit of that movie in terms of just being so in your face about the horrors of war. It's very, very scary, obviously, in some spots, in a realistic way. And I would say, for me, rivals, some of the biggest horror movies of the year, because it's terrifying, because this really happened to a lot of people. So there's a few things that stick out with this movie. One of them is that it is from the German soldier's perspective. And of course, in retrospect, you might think, oh, okay, well, why, who cares about that? Why do we care about that sort of mindset and the German soldier? And the truth is, we care because they're kids, and they are just like our kids that were fighting in World War I and World War II, and a bit timely now too, with stuff going on in Ukraine as well. I think it's impossible to deny that sort of parallel too. That there are a lot of innocent, teenagers, young 20s, going to war. Well, and in World War I era, it was, much younger than that, even 14, 15, I'm sure, going to war for something that they basically are, quote unquote, following orders, that classic. But it's true. And the way this movie is presented, it really does, at least for me, makes the viewer feel bad for these people. They didn't know what they were getting into. They thought, okay, well, nationalism, hurrah, let's go and win one here. And it is just horrible to see the bloodshed and all of the stuff that I had to sort of, shield my eyes from. In fact, I prefer to watch things with the subtitles on because I like to hear how the original actors are, performing their roles. But I have to say, about an hour and 20 minutes or so in, I had to switch off the subtitles so I could watch it in dubbed English because at that point the bloodshed was just so real. There were a lot of times where I just had to kind of look away from the screen. And when I'm doing that, I'm obviously missing some dialogue if I have to also be looking at subtitles. So I gave it the good old college try with that, watched it for about half the movie with the English subtitles and in the original German language. But I had to turn it off into the dubbed version once the battles and the bloodshed really started getting underway. The score to this is absolutely astounding. It will stick with you. The cinematography is amazing. It's definitely, I think, going to win cinematography. The movies it's up against include Tar, which had decent cinematography, but nothing that I thought was that incredible. Elvis, which that did have some great cinematography. This other movie called Empire of Light, which I have not seen yet. That's on my 2022 list to try and get to. And then this other movie I've never heard of called Bardo. I was a little surprised that Top Gun Maverick wasn't a part of that conversation. Or Everything Everywhere All at Once was not part of that conversation. And because those two are out, I think without a doubt, this is going to win Best Cinematography. It's just amazing to look at. And it is one of these things that is a shame it is a Netflix original movie because it did not get a very wide theatrical release because of that. And I think this is one of the movies that if you can stomach it, it would be great to see on the big screen. It reminds me certainly of 1917, which is also World War One. I saw that on the big screen, and I thought that maybe deserved to win Best Picture. I think that was the year Parasite won, so I was also okay with that. But 1917, fantastic movie in a similar vein, but of course from not the German perspective. So there's no acting nominations here that come from this movie, and I think that's okay because the people involved in the acting, yeah, they give a good performance, but this movie isn't necessarily about the characters themselves as it is about the entire war. So narratively, okay, there may be a few things amiss here. Maybe we don't get as rich of a narrative story as we did in something like 1917. And again, I don't really remember that well the original All Quiet on the Western Front. I don't remember if that had a better sort of connective narrative story or not. This seems at times to be almost, sort of vignette like in, okay, well, this battle happened and it sucked, and this is what happened, and then we move on to this. But what I liked about that is that is sort of the nature of war. It is sort of, okay, this battle happened. We lost this many people. There were this many landmines. This guy's, leg got blown off, etc. And then the next day, you got to go back out and fight. So it's not necessarily a negative that narratively it was like that, because I feel like that was a pretty good depiction of war. Thankfully, I've never, been there myself. So I don't know, is it that accurate? But it seems to be very, very accurate in the portrayal of, that war is hell sort of mentality. So yeah, I think this is going to win a lot of things at the Oscars, including certainly Best International Feature. I think that one's a given. I think cinematography is a given. But I think it's probably a two-horse race in the Best Picture category between this and Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think there could be a couple of dark horses leaning in there. But, this has everything the Academy kind of loves in movies, especially, a certain segment of the Academy, which is sort of that older white segment. They love their war movies, and You know, look, the original one back in what, 1930. So it would be interesting to have that sort of come full circle with this German language version. So I leave All Quiet on the Western Front with an A. Very, very powerful piece of cinema. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Dan Reviews It. Bye.